Tonight's episode of Legacy Battle is brought to you by Atlas Benefits.
Atlas Benefits has solutions for your insurance needs. Atlas Benefits can help you obtain Medicare, health, or life insurance and employee benefits. You can find them on the web at www.atlasbenefits.com.
Or you can contact Rob Ducey or Roy Smith at 727-600-2892 and mention Legacy Battle Podcast. Atlas Benefits has all the solutions for your insurance needs. Enjoy the show. This is Legacy Battle. Make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Join the Facebook group. I am Michael Adams, creator of Legacy Battle. Here with me tonight, my panelists from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King, Penn State Collegiate All-Star, Kevin Adams, Ball State athlete, Paul Havicott. And if you're watching, this is show number 50. So thank you for everyone who's been watching in the last 50 shows. Our special guest tonight, former PGA golfer. He's first team All-SEC 2 times and won an SEC team championship with David Toms, as well as an individual SEC championship in 1984. His rookie year on the tour, he's got 2 top 10 finishes that year. He's got 4 professional wins. He's played at the U.S. Open, PGA Championship, and the Open Championship. PGA alum, Emlyn Aubrey. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Good to have you here. So tonight we're going to be debating the top 5 golfers of the 1990s. That's something we like to do here, is go back a little bit and work our way forward through the years. So we're starting out tonight with the 90s, and our first golfer we're going to discuss is Nick Faldo.
All right, Nick Faldo. He was from England, European Tour player, but he visited the U.S. regularly. Faldo turned pro in 1977. And he found some success over the next several years, but his career really took off when he began working with famed golf instructor David Ledbetter in the late 80s. During this time period that we're talking about tonight, the 90s, Faldo's career was just firing on all cylinders. By then, in 1990, he had a huge year. He won the Masters and the Open Championship. He was named both European Tour Golfer of the Year and PGA Player of the Year. He became the #1 ranked player in the world in September of 1990, and he held that ranking for the next 97 weeks. He would go on to win the European Golfer of the Year award again in 1992, the Open Championship that year also, and second in the PGA Championship. And he won the Masters again in 1996. That was a very memorable Masters. He trailed by 6 strokes going into the final round, but he was able to overtake Greg Norman for the win. We all remember that Greg Norman just seemed to just fade there in that final round, and Faldo was just so intimidating, and he was able to overtake him and actually ended up beating him by 5 strokes. Not only was Faldo well accomplished, but he was just great under pressure. There were several times where he was able to win, squeak out a close win.
So, Emlyn, the English love golf. I mean, that's just a given. I mean, is he maybe their favorite son? And what can you tell us about their game or his game?
Definitely the English love golf. My one experience over there, the British Open, 1989, I believe it was. Just amazing. It's not only like stepping back in time, but the whole town. It was at Royal Troon, and the little town there was just every window, every light post had something golf on it. So no doubt that they love golf over there. So I think Faldo's got to be the big man over there over the years. Just an incredible career. 6 majors, only 2 different ones though. Masters and Open Championship. So, being from England and winning that Open Championship the 3 times that he did, that was probably helped his cause over there as far as being the golfer of the what do they call it, the golfer of the year, but he's the golfer of the lifetime, I would think.
Quite a few Ryder Cups too, if I'm recalling correctly. I think he's captain.
Yeah, like 11 maybe, something like that.
Yeah, incredible number.
Yeah, that's 22 years of
excellent
team golf. Awesome.
Well, let's move on to the Shark, Greg Norman.
Love Greg Norman. I'm actually sporting his clothing line here. Got the shark here on the shirt. Australian golfer. He was actually taught by his mother, who was actually a single-digit handicapper when it came to golf. She would let him caddy for her, and that's kind of how he learned. And when he turned 19, that's when he started to get noticed by the media for his play. He was one of the best drivers in the game during his era. Between the 80s and 90s, he spent 331 weeks as the world's #1 ranked golfer. He won the Open Championships in 86 and 93, 20 other PGA Tour tournaments, and he had won 89 professional tournaments. He has 30 top 10 finishes and was runner-up 8 times in the majors. He ended up being inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame in 2001, and he actually had the highest percentage of votes out of any other golfer at 80%. He's nicknamed the Great White Shark, which he got after his performance in the 81 Masters. That's probably why he has the logo on his clothing. He finished runner-up 3 times at the Masters, 2 times at the PGA Championship, 2 times at the U.S. Open. He won the PGA Tour of Australia Order of Merit 6 times, European Tour Order of Merit once, PGA Tour Leading Money Winner 3 times, PGA Player of the Year, Tour Player of the Year. He won the Varden Trophy, Byron Nelson Trophy, the Old Thomas Award, Charlie Bartlett Award. Golf Week, USAtoday.com put him ranked number 4 for top 10 golfers in the 90s. He had 12 victories in the 90s, and 1 was a major championship title in the PGA over the 90s decade. Great golfer. I think he's definitely at least top 5.
Emlyn, let me ask you, I did a little research. Bleacher Report lists Greg Norman as the biggest choker in golf history. That seems a little unfair to me. Now, I know he's given up some leads and stuff, but what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's funny, the sports writers or so forth, just because Norman lost a lot of golf tournaments, it's like, last year, Jordan Spieth being in a slump, so to speak. So it's funny how, you hear some labels they put on some of these guys over the years that had some success, and then a couple of years without success, then boy, they're just down the list real quick. But I tell you, Norman was the guy. He was the first guy out there that kind of his presence impressed me. I tried, since I was playing against all these guys, I didn't want to be in awe by any means, but he had the big hat and the blonde hair, and he had the physique like a swimmer. The big shoulders and small waist, and he was the most impressive presence I thought out there. Yeah, he messed up some tournaments, but it seemed like he was always there. So you're not a good golfer, or you're not a bad golfer if you're always in the hunt anyway. So he closed some out, but he probably didn't close more out. And kind of one of those things where, what if he hit this shot, or somebody didn't make a shot, So some of his losses were by other people's great shots. So it's hard to take that away from him. But for me, I think he's the most impressive one of this list we're going through.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right. Let's move on to John Daly. Paul, with just an awesome picture there.
Okay. Yeah, mine are emotional picks. So I know the stats aren't there, but you've got to think John Daly when you think of the 90s, and he's still at it today in some capacity. Long John, one of his many nicknames, definitely known for his loud clothing, long drives, somewhat inconsistent play. It's kind of an understatement, but everybody thinks, and the criticism is there about good times, different spouses, drinking, but I embrace John for his self-taught golf swing, all of his flaws. He's got a lot of great qualities about him, part of a lot of charities, but he's definitely known for being very human throughout the years. Born April 28th, 1966, he won the PGA Tour 5 times, the European Tour 3 times. He's got 17 professional wins. He had won the PGA Tour in 1991, which was his well-known zero-to-hero victory. That's one of the things he was kind of known for. In 97, he becomes the first PGA Tour player to average more than 300 yards per drive over a full season. He did so every year from 99 to 2008, and he was one of the only players to do so until 2003. In 2004, he made a PGA Tour comeback and won Player of the Year. The highest he was ever ranked, I think, was in 2005. He was 23rd. There's other stats, but to really encompass some of his play, let's join me on a little bit of a memory recall here. During the 1994 PGA Tour's NEC World Series of Golf, Daly hit several shots into a group playing in front of him on the 14th hole in the final round. He drove the green twice. One of those shots almost hit professional golfer Jeff Roth. This led to a scuffle between Daly and Roth's father. They wrestled to the ground. Fans ended up breaking them up. How about something that I would do in the second round of the 2015 PGA Championship at Whistling Straits Golf Course in Haven, Wisconsin? He was 1 over par at the time. Hit 3 consecutive tee shots attempted into the water of Lake Michigan at the par 3, 7th hole. He used a 4-iron on the first unsuccessful try, then switched to a 6-iron. Next 2 failed tries. After his 4th attempt, his 7th shot, which found the green. He was so livid about his shot selection, he threw his 6-iron into Lake Michigan. Basically a septuple bogey on that hole. I've got a few more of these, but in the spirit of time, this is just one of many water stories. Nobody will probably have the guts to vote for him, and I can't vote for him because he's mine that I'm representing, but I argue for him because to us fans, us recreational golfers, he sort of represents the dream. He acts like us sometimes, but he doesn't resemble what a typical athlete looks like or plays like. Yet when the word golf comes to mind, you think of Tiger Woods, but in your heart, you got to think of John Daly a little bit too.
And we also had one of his former caddies on, Dan Quinn. Was for a hockey show, but we did ask him about John Daly during the Q&A. But Emlyn, of all the people we're talking about tonight, when Daly is on, he is on. But his inconsistencies seem to come up quite a bit.
Yeah, John's actually, he's probably my closest peer of this group that we have tonight. We're about the same age. We played college golf against each other. So we kind of go way back. Absolutely greatest guy in the world, do anything for you. Unfortunately, throughout his career, he's known for just what Paul talked about, is his kind of not only his off-course antics, but his on-course antics. So he had those few good, several good tournaments, obviously a great player. And, a lot of the talk at the time, especially, when he was having some, possibly some drinking problems at the time, was he or wasn't he drinking on the course type of thing. So, we always wondered what kind of golfer he would have been if he was indeed drinking on the course. Was he a good golfer because of that, or would he have been better if he had that under control? So that was kind of all the questions with John, but, absolutely emotional pick. Absolutely, Paul. I agree. Just best guy out there, would do anything for you, give your shirt off his back, so to speak. So
when you saw him connect on one of those 300+ drives when he's in his groove, was it just a sight to behold?
It was. He was the, back then, he was the longest driver out there, won the driving distance, category every year. So I got a quick story about that. We were playing in the Woodlands in Houston, Texas, Houston Open one year. 13th hole is a par 5, island green. And we both hit our drives out there. And I laid up with a 7-iron, and he hit 7-iron on the green. So
Guy's got some power.
yeah. So he was the, Bryson DeChambeau, type of guy back then in the 90s. So
They just had a John Daly night in St. Louis 2 nights ago at the Cardinals game, and he tried to mimic his drive with the first pitch. He told the catcher that he's going to just try to throw it as far as he could. So he tried to launch it into the seats, but it fell short. He didn't make it.
I would say he's probably the most, or at least was before Tiger came along, but probably the most famous golfer to non-golfers in the world, I would say.
Well, let's move on to the other Nick we have tonight, and that's Nick Price. This is a Zimbabwean. There we go. Zimbabwean golfer. He won 3 majors in the 90s. Reached #1 in the world. And in 93, 94, he topped the tour money list. You know, everything's about money this day and age. So that's pretty impressive. And he set a new record for money earned. So I'm sure that's been beat since that time, but back in the day, he set that record. And he stayed in first for 43 weeks. That's a pretty long time period. So this man basically dominated the 90s, in my opinion. 93 and 97, he won the Barton Trophy for the lowest adjusted scoring average. 92, he wins the PGA Championship, which was his first major. He wins that by 3 strokes ahead of Brian's guy, Nick Faldo. He shot a 70 the first 2 days, which, you know, that's decent. Then it follows that up to 68 on day 3, and then a 70 on day 4. So the consistency won that tournament for him. Going into 93, 94, he wins the PGA Tour Player of the Year, and in 94 wins back-to-back majors, the Open and the PGA Championship. And you can add the Players Championship as well in 93. He's got, just in the 90s, he's got 16 PGA tournament wins, 4 European wins. You can toss in a Japan Tour win as well. 8 Sunshine Tour wins, a PGA Australian win, and 5 other wins. So that's a total of 36 tournaments that he won in the 90s. That's an impressive number. He's one of the best ball strikers of all time, not just of the 90s. And I know this stat right here is 1980s, but I do want to throw it out because I thought Kevin was going to mention about Norman shooting a 63 at Augusta, but in the 90s, which he did, but that actually tied Price, who had set that record with a 63 at the Masters. So, you know, he's also a Hall of Famer, but, you know, everybody tonight pretty much is Hall of Fame caliber. So what's your thoughts on Nick Price? Is he like maybe the best pure ball striker that we're talking about tonight?
I agree. Definitely, you know, not the not the character or the most famous, most outspoken type guy, but really another really great guy. #1 in the world. I got to play with him 1 year at Bay Hill, and I wouldn't say we weren't close friends, but always there talking, asked me how I was doing. I was younger, first couple of years on tour, and he'd always, take time to ask me what's going on, you need anything type of thing. So great guy. Another quick story with him. I'm playing with him at Bay Hill. I don't know, he's #1 in the world, close to it, something like that. So again, not trying to be in awe, but I absolutely got to play with him. I don't think it was the last round, but it was probably Saturday round. I'm sure he wouldn't miss the cut, but we're playing together, getting to 18, iconic golf hole at Bay Hill, water all around the green, rocks and all that's famous stuff. But anyway, we both hit our drives out there. Back in the day, we were hitting 4, 5, 6 irons at best, and they're hitting it way down by the water and hitting 9 irons in these days. But I think he pulled out a 4 iron or maybe 5 iron and got this shot. A lot of people around the green and just totally lays the sod over it, hits it literally 30 yards. And he just, I'm sure the look on my face was shocked, but he just laughed it off and, got up and down for par, no big deal. So another funny story, kind of a surprise in my eyes and something I always remember playing with somebody of that caliber back in the day.
So I think he's better than the other Nick we're talking about tonight, but we're going to have to figure that out when we go to the vote. So I'm going to throw that trash at you there, Brian. But let's move on to let's change this order up a little bit here. Let's get the sentimental pick in here. Ping Stewart.
Okay. I went for my favorite golfer, but Payne's still in my top 5. When you think of Payne, you're thinking of Ivy caps, Knickerbocker pants. I mean, he's an original. Once again, kind of the same argument I made for John. I think of Payne Stewart when I think of the 90s. He's born 1/30/57 in Springfield, Missouri. Unfortunately, taken too soon from us on 10/25/99 in a Learjet plane crash. He was most known probably for what I mentioned, how he dressed, his colorful wardrobes. I think it was rumored that he had one of the largest wardrobes in golf. He had a beautiful fluid swing, and photographers would just kind of seek him out because it was, as you can see behind me in the small snippet, he was just kind of a sight to behold. But he was a golfer through and through, married to Australian golfer Mike Ferguson's sister Tracy in '82, and they remained married until he passed. But Payne won his first PGA title in '89, and in his career played in 1,600 events. He had 11 PGA Tour events, including 3 major championships in his career, 130 top 10 finishes, and won over $11 million in his career. He had basically 24 plus professional wins. The highest I think he was ranked was number 3, and I got here June 10th of 1990. So in those rankings, he kind of made it to 3 at one point. But he's got, Masters tournament tied for 8th in '86, PGA Championship won '89, '91, '99, tied for 2nd in the Open Championship in 1985 and 1990. He was elected to the World Golf Hall of Fame in 2001, Byron Nelson Award in '89, and Bob Jones Award in 2014. My memory, real quick, of Payne Stewart is, as a lot of little boys, where I collected cards, baseball cards and football cards. And I remember back in the day, Pro Set for the football cards had a Payne Stewart golf card. It kind of bled into the sport, and it was him wearing one of these crazy outfits with like the NFL on there or whatever. And I remember, I didn't know who he was, but I remember asking why he was in there. And ever since then, I was a huge fan of him. So that's basically Payne Stewart.
What was the reaction in the golf world on tour when you all heard of the passing?
Yeah, it was just a shock. I remember one of those things, obviously with tomorrow being 9/11, everybody's saying, everybody knows where they were at that moment. So that's the case for me and Payne Stewart. I was actually moving from Austin, Texas back here to Shreveport. We'll be closer to my wife's family. And we were just packing up the house, and I don't know what was on TV or whatnot, but, the breaking news type of thing came in, and, just kind of, we didn't know what was going to happen. It was one of those things where the breaking news came in and the plane was still in the air. So we kind of glued to that TV to see what the outcome was. And obviously it wasn't great, but, just pretty much of a shock. I didn't know him very well. I knew him a little bit, played a couple of practice rounds with him over the years, but, like we said, just smooth swing, just had that character to him with the outfits, all parts of his game. Everybody just kind of tried to implement it into their games, good driver of the ball, great chipper, great putter. So, and then, just to have him win that US Open that same year that he passed, that, just kind of topped his career off. And, unfortunately it didn't end great that year and for him, but, that making that putt in the US Opens is probably, when everybody says, or you say Payne Stewart's name, if you're a golfer, you think of that last putt at Pinehurst for that US Open.
That was a big moment, and sadly, that plane crash was one of the saddest days in golf history. But
yeah, no, we never been through anything like that before.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Ernie Ells.
Ernie, South African golfer, nicknamed the Big Easy because of his size. He had pretty nice, fluidity to his swing. He learned how to play golf from his dad. He started soon after that being better than his dad and his brother. He started playing at the age of 8, and he won his first tournament in the 13 to 14-year-old world championship, finishing ahead of Mickelson. He was a former #1 ranked golfer. He has more than 74 victories, with 4 of those being major championships, 19 of those on the PGA Tour. He won the U.S. Open in 1994 at Oakmont, and Oakmont is a very difficult course outside of Pittsburgh, not far from where we used to live, actually just down the street from where our grandmother used to live. But a very tough course. He won that Open in 94. He also won the Open in 97, so he has 2 U.S. Open victories in the 90s. He's also won the Open Championship in the early 2000s. He's only one of 6 golfers to win both of those tournaments twice, the U.S. Open and the Open Championship, so that's pretty impressive. He was third twice in the PGA Championship and runner-up twice in the Masters. He won the European Tour Order of Merit twice. He won the World Match Play Championship 7 times. He was the leading career money winner for a while there. He was the first member to win over 25 mil in European Tour events. He held, as I mentioned, he held the #1 world rank for a while, but he also held the record for most weeks in the top 10 at 788 weeks. He was ranked in the top 10. He was elected into the World Golf Hall of Fame in 2010. And then got officially inducted in 2011. That was his first time on the ballot. He was PGA Tour Rookie of the Year in 94, European Player of the Year 3 times. He won the Sunshine Tour Player of the Year for 2 seasons in the 90s. He won the Payne Stewart Award once, the Old Tom Morris Award once. Bleacher Report listed him as number 3 in the top 15 golfers of the 90s. And then Golf Week USA Today put him at number 5. So he had 7 PGA victories in the 90s, and 2 of those were majors. He also deserves to be in the top 5.
Tell us about Ernie, though.
Yeah, Ernie. So, as wild and crazy and well-known as John Daly was, Ernie Ells is just complete opposite. Quiet guy, just went about his business, never any controversy. I wouldn't say anything but boring, but obviously just didn't really care for the limelight all that much. Just went out, got his work done, won plenty of tournaments and money, and just went about his business in a calm and impressive way, no doubt. Big guy, just smooth swing. Got to know him a little bit as well. And actually, I played in that same Open at Oakmont in '94, and was right there in the clubhouse when he ended up winning on Sunday. So. Great guy, just again, my kind of guy, pretty laid back. I think a little whiskey and a jazz club type of guy, just hanging out, telling some stories, and then go home and go to bed.
Kevin, I want to give you some credit for your 2 guys tonight. They have the best nicknames. I mean, Ernie Ells, the Big Easy. That's a great name too, along with the Shark. All right, let's move on to let's see, Jose Olazabal. I can't even say it.
Yeah, Jose Maria Olazabal, who came out of Spain. Jose turned pro in 1985. He spent much of his career on the European tour, but he played in the U.S. from time to time. Jose had a top 10 showing in 1990 and 1991 at the U.S. Open, and in 1992 he took 3rd in the Open Championship. His biggest achievements both occurred at the Masters, though. He won in both 1994 and 1999. A year later, he tied the PGA Championship record for the lowest score of 63 at the Valhalla Golf Club. When he won the Masters in 1994, that marked only the 2nd time a golfer who had won the Amateur Championship had become the winner of a green jacket as well. Jose, he also did some team golf. He was a member of Europe's Ryder Cup many times, and he helped them win 1991, 1993, 1997, and 1999. In 2009, he was inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame, and he still is occasionally on the tour today.
So, Emlyn, all these players are really good. There's no doubt in that. But Jose's putting, he's one of the greatest putters of all time, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I think with Jose, though, he didn't get the credit that he deserved just because he didn't play that much over here. Obviously a couple Masters wins, but, for the most part, he'd come over here, play the majors and a couple of the maybe lead up tournaments to the majors to get acclimated. But, he spent most of his time in Europe and did, again, most of his success over there. And I don't think you can say Jose's name without thinking about the great Seve Ballesteros. They were, what a team they made during all those Ryder Cups those years in the 90s. They just were pretty unbeatable. So, Seve's, if I had to pick a hero for me growing up, Seve's my guy. So, since Seve and Jose kind of were hand in hand over the years, I liked the way Jose conducted himself, and I just wish he would have played over here maybe a little bit more. And who knows what he would have done over here. But a lot of fun, those two, watching those Ryder Cups over the years.
Well, let's move on to our final player tonight. That's going to be Mark O'Mara. I'm representing him, American golfer. So 98 PGA Player of the Year, 2 career majors, both occur in the 90s. The odd thing about that was, though, he didn't actually win a major till post 40 years old. So it took him quite a while to get one of the big ones. So he wins the Open Championship in 98, but the real big one is the 98 Masters. And you probably see this in highlight reels where he wins the green jacket, of course, but this was a great tournament. He shoots 2 over on the first day, and he's not even really in contention that first day. So not a good start. He comes back day 2, shoots 2 under to put him even after 2 days. Then day 3, he shoots a very, very good 68, putting him all the way up into a tie for second place. Now the final round, we go to the final round, day 4 here. He birdies 3 of the final 4 holes, and he puts up a 67 on the day. And going to the 18th hole, he has to hold off David Duval and Freddie Couples, 2 very, very good golfers. And O'Mara sinks like just an incredible 20-foot putt to win that tournament. It was an insane putt with the pressure of the Masters and everything going on. And the 2 guys who are basically they're tied with him, being David Duval and Freddie Couples, 2 of the biggest names in golf. That made it even more impressive that he sinks that 20-foot putt. Just some quick stats. He's got 11 PGA wins in the 90s, 3 European, a Japan, and 4 South American wins. So I think he is, he's still around obviously today, but he is most remembered for that 20-foot putt at the Masters. When you do things at the Masters, it's just remembered more than anything else. That, as Kevin said on our last golf show with Kenny Knox, green jacket, gold jacket, it's all about the green jacket when it comes to golf. So Emlyn, I don't know if you remember that putt or not, but what were your thoughts? You do? What were your thoughts on Mark O'Mara and just that moment?
Mark was just one of those guys. He'd go along, have pretty solid years and years on end. Just top whatever. Didn't win a whole lot, but he was a solid contender every week, it seemed like. And then after age 40 and had that 1998 year that he did, and I tell you, a lot of tour pros would kill for that kind of career. Nothing. No flash to him, no real fame, so to speak, unless you're a real golf fan. But just a solid contender every year he played, and then that breakthrough year just kind of solidified his career over the years that with those 2 majors. So absolutely, probably down the list as far as what we're looking at tonight with these players, but. Like I said, a lot of players would give anything to have that career.
All right, let's move into our vote tonight. Kevin, I'm going to start with you.
Nick Faldo had the 4 majors, but Nick Price had way more victories in the 90s and only 1 less major. So that's a tough one. But I'm gonna have to go with Price, because he had way more victories than Faldo and only 1 less major. So I'm gonna go with Price.
Okay, I'm gonna go next, and I'm giving it to Faldo. I'm just gonna take up what you did, Kevin. I don't even need an explanation because you nailed it when you said he won all 4. That's, that's impressive. Brian.
I'm gonna go with Ernie Ells. I really like the consistency. What Kevin said, what was that? Almost 800 weeks in the top 10. That is really impressive. It's really impressive to stay at that level for that long. So I'm gonna go with Ells.
Okay, Paul.
I forget, Mike. I have to pick somebody different, or I can pick one of them.
You got to pick somebody different. Top 5 tonight.
Yeah, that's tough. All you guys stole it. Thanks for letting me go 4th. You know what? That's fine. I'll go Shark because he kind of falls in line with what I like about golf. So you guys had a really interesting life. So I'm going to go the Shark.
Okay. And Emlyn, you get last pick here. We got Payne Stewart, Jose Olazabal, Marco Mara, and John Daly.
Well, we'll just go with, did we say I get Payne Stewart?
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to go with that one, I think, just because he was just had the all-around game, won his share of majors, had that little bit of flair to garner a little extra fame probably. So I'll go with Payne.
So legacy battles, top 5 of the 90s for golf. Nick Price, Nick Faldo, Ernie Ells, Greg Norman, and Payne Stewart. I'm glad to see Payne and the Knickers get on there. That makes me feel good. That really does make me feel good. All right, let's move into our Q&A. Let's see, Kevin, you got 2 on the list tonight, so you get the victory. You get first question.
So tell me what was your favorite course, and what do you think was the most difficult course to play in the PGA?
My favorite course was no doubt Westchester Country Club, the old Buick Classic, I think it was called. We had the Buick Open, Buick Classic, and then there was a Buick something in Georgia at that time. But Westchester Country Club, just old school, very similar to the course that I grew up playing on in Pennsylvania. And, not overly long. It was always, back those days, it was always the tournament right before the U.S. Open. So it was always set up as a U.S. Open type test for guys to come over there and try to get ready. So high rough, fast, hard greens, definitely my favorite over the years. Probably my favorite tournament over the time was, I'd say that Pebble Beach Pro-Am was one of those tournaments you'd play every year. It wasn't the greatest situation playing 3 different courses, and it was always January, February, so the weather was iffy, but obviously the scenery was incredible. The golf courses were incredible. Playing that Pro-Am format could be trying a little bit because you could, get some amateur partners that couldn't break 100. So probably my favorite. Probably the most difficult course, probably a toss-up between Spyglass, which was on the rotation of that Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Very underrated golf course, just incredibly difficult. I always said if they had a U.S. Open there, over par would easily be the winning score. And then 1 year U.S. Open at Oakland Hills in Michigan, probably the most difficult golf course I've ever played. What year was that? Probably 96, possibly. Probably my last U.S. Open, 96, I think it was. So Oakland Hills in Michigan.
Paul.
I think I know you were, and I think you still are. Aren't you coaching golf?
I am. I coach at a small college in Shreveport, Louisiana called Centenary.
What, in your time as a player, what would you say the best piece of advice was that you received? And in your coaching, is that the same, or what do you think your best piece of advice that you give is?
Well, as a professional, the best piece of advice that I probably received was during my first few years is to not overdo it. You get your tour card and you're excited to be out there and boy, you just want to play every single week, and you just can't do that. So that was probably, somebody told me, you just got to pace yourself, find a good number of tournaments to play in a row and then take a week or two off. And, you always, hopefully you got the next year to play the tournaments that you may have missed that one year. So that was probably the best advice. A little bit on the same level with college kids, they're trying to juggle their schoolwork and practice time and then missing school for road trips, stuff like that. So a little bit of them, pace yourself a little bit. If you can't practice, or if you can't practice what I want you for the day, at least practice a little bit. So my kind of motto with them is I like quality practice over quantity. So, we're in an academic school, so they're very stressed and very tested on their academics here. So I just tell them, just kind of pace yourself, and you'll find out in life, whatever you do, jobs, anything, you got to pace yourself. You can't work 7 days a week. There's no way. So yeah, I try to give a little bit of advice that I learned back then to my college kids.
Brian.
I understand that your first pro win on the Asian tour was the San Miguel Coca-Cola Philippine Open in 1989.
Yeah.
What was it like to win at Asia's longest running golf tournament? And what are the differences between the Asian tour and the tours over here stateside?
Well, the Asian tour was great because it taught me adversity. The golf courses, we play 10 different countries back then on the Asian tour. So it was just a 3-month tour. It's during the early spring and late winter, early spring was the time frame. So we played in Pakistan and India and Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Japan, Korea. So obviously wide variety of courses and course conditions. So that's what that taught me over there. To go over there, that was my second year. So I already played in 1988 over there, and I enjoyed it. I liked the food. I'm kind of an adventurous type of person, so the cultures didn't bother me. The food didn't bother me. So I played in '88, and I couldn't wait. I didn't get my card in '88, so I couldn't wait to go back to Asia. And I believe that Philippine was actually the first tournament going back over there. So great golf course. It was right on the ocean. It was kind of like a Hawaii type course, if you picture that, with ocean views and cliff sides, stuff like that. So I remember the conditions weren't great. The putting surfaces were very slow and bumpy, and I learned to overdo that. And another good piece of advice that I learned is if you can beat somebody before they tee off, then you're going to beat them when the round's over. So I just looked at it. Everybody's playing the same course, and I did just that week anyway. So it was fun. Still have the trophy too.
Nice.
So you turned pro in '86, but you don't join the PGA until 1990. So during that 4-year period, what part of your game was it that you felt you had to work on the most in order to make that jump to the PGA?
Physical part of the game was putting for sure. I just, growing up at one golf course in Pennsylvania and mainly staying in the north was just the different grass than coming down in the south. So, I had to learn a lot going to LSU, and the grass is down here. So that transition from one golf course to the next, I was a little slower than some as far as the short game goes. So that held me back a little bit. I just tried to play a bunch of different tours when I could. I played the Asian tour. I played in the summers in the North and South Dakota. They had a tour. Played some state opens, try to move around the country as much as I could to get that experience of not only competing, but playing different golf courses, different grasses. And I knew that would be the case when you get on tour as well.
You ever cross paths with Palmer or Nicholas?
Actually played with Jack and Tom Watson on Sunday at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am one year. That was my pairing, so that was pretty fun. Old man Bush was there, followed us around with his wife. First few holes, got to meet them. So
Cool.
It was Sunday. We were about the second or third to last group, so we were in the hunt, and obviously the crowds were there, and that's the one. That's the one with celebrities playing alongside. So actually, our celebrity was Jack's son, Steve Nicholas. So it was myself, Tom Watson, Jack Nicklaus, and then Jack and Steve had made the cut as the team there, so they played with us. So that was probably my most best pairing, and then my interaction with Watson and Nicholas. But Arnold, I never really got to meet him one time. He did give me an exemption into Bay Hill one year that I wasn't ordinarily qualified for, so I got an exemption there. So I got to meet him, talk to him, thank him about that. But that's my only real interaction with him.
Another thing I wanted to ask you was, I found like an old article from like the mid '90s, and it said that your wife Cindy was your caddy at the time.
Yeah, she was.
What was that like having your wife as your caddy?
Well, the big joke was, you pay a caddy 10% or so, and I just paid her 100. That's all.
I was going to make that joke, but it's what really happened in real life.
It happens in real life, yeah. We had a good time. It was something that it was mainly the nationwide tour, just to save some money. You're not making the money that you are on the regular tour, so you're driving around. So it was a way to save some money, and she was all for it and enjoyed the experience, enjoyed the exercise that she got. And she was actually caddying for me that day when I played with Nicholas. That was early in '96. And she jokes, she goes, I had to get pregnant to get off the bag. So it was the only way I could get her off the bag. So we had our first child later on in '96 there. So we had a good time. She at Oakmont that year, she caddied for me there, and Oakmont's famous for its 100, 300, 400 bunkers, whatever. And she literally told me during one round, if you hit another bunker, you're raking it yourself.
That's the problem with having your wife caddy for you right there.
How many caddies would say that? We had fun though. We had a nice 1 year Sports Illustrated wrote a nice article about wives at caddy, and we made that, so that was fun.
So Kevin, you're the best golfer out of the four of us, and you won tonight. So I'm going to give you last question. Go ahead.
Awesome. So I want to take you back to like 1994 and then 96, 97. So it looks like 94, correct me if I'm wrong, you were on the Nike tour?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So it seems like that was your best year in the Nike tour. You didn't miss any cuts. You had 8 top 10 finishes, 3 runner-up finishes. You finished 10th on the money list. And then in 96 was your best year on tour, it looks like, recording 2 top 5 finishes, a runner-up at the Vancouver Open, and top 75 for money list. What do you think was clicking during those years that those were like your best years and whatnot?
Yeah, I wish I could pinpoint one thing, but the main thing is for me, it was kind of the start you got off to each year. I was a little fragile mentally, I'm not going to lie. So if I came out of the winter break and I started out well, West Coast, it seemed like I had a pretty good year the rest of the way. But it's other than the greatest to play the game, most of us out there are having up and down years and losing cards and getting them back and falling back to the Korn Ferry Tour, which it's called now. So it's a tough game. There's so many good players, and I think there's more these days than there were even back then. So it's just a matter of so momentum oriented golf is, and you get off to a good start, you putt well, and have a couple good finishes, you can ride that. But if you get off, miss a few cuts, West Coast, it's tough to regain that. But you got to remember, the nice thing is with golf, you can click at any point, and you can have that great week. So you just got to ride that. After that does happen, you got to ride as long as you can.
Well, thank. Go ahead.
Real quick, I'm sorry. I just got one more thing. I apologize, but
No worries.
I've heard there's differences. Like you had mentioned about the grass, being different up north than down here, and it is. does the atmosphere, like the air and everything on the west, or I mean, obviously the mountains is a little different. Is there like a big difference in the different areas of the country when it comes to golfing?
It's nothing that's a little more simpler thing to adjust to faster, whatever. You get the West Coast, you got the heavy air on the ocean, and then, Colorado or so, you got the thin air, you're hitting it a little further. Florida, sea level, so it's a little more humid there. And then, again, for me growing up in Pennsylvania, that was where I was most comfortable, up in the Midwest and East Coast, that kind of thing. So that was a little bit easier. I mean, it definitely affects golf. I remember teeing off at Pebble Beach in the Pro-Am out there, and 10th tee, you got, it's a 1.5-mile van ride out there, and you got a 7:15 tee time in the air. You can't see but 40 yards through the fog, and you got a 158 iron normally, and you're hitting 6 iron. So trying to cut a ball through that fog out there. So little things you got to adjust to at times, but those should come to you a little bit quicker than some of the other like the grasses, and mainly just the competition that you're playing in. Again, as a young person out there, you're trying not to be in awe, but if you're a golf fan growing up, playing against sometimes your idols when you're a kid, that's the hardest part to get over.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Great to have you on.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Golfers are hard to get because you guys just never retire,
That's right.
Always out on the course. For everybody's watching, make sure you hit subscribe on whatever you're watching on, and join us next time. Thank you for watching. Good night.